Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Growth Habits with Ngozi. How are you doing? How is everyone? Good morning if it's still morning where you are. Good evening if it's already getting to evening where you are. How is everyone doing today? Oh, I'm so glad to be here this afternoon. So happy. Just give me 1 minute. Let me confirm that our sound is working. All right. Yes. Yes, the sound is good. So, how are we today? How is our day going? I trust that everything is okay. Trust that we're having an awesome day. This is Growth Habits with Ngozi once again, and I am your personal guide on this journey of growth. We started a series that's been really interesting, and I want to believe that we have been enjoying this series. I want to believe that it has been enlightening, impactful, what have you. I want to trust that it has been helping us. We started this series. Well, the whole, I don't even know what to call this series now. It's called Conversations. And it's conversations on different things. But we decided to start the conversations off by talking about leadership, the leading edge. What gives you that edge in leadership? That is what we decided to start off with. Welcome, Uzo Koli. Welcome, Pastor Dede. I'm so glad you joined me this afternoon. So we started this series on conversations, the leading edge, and we have talked quite about quite a lot. Actually, we've discussed what is leadership, and we said that the leadership is just the act of guiding people, the act of I don't want to use the word leading to describe leadership. So it's the act of guiding people, individuals, a group, guiding them to achieve an aim, to achieve a goal. And you do this by directing them, by motivating them, and you encourage people to take action as a leader. So that is what leadership basically is all about. Your ability to lead people, your ability to guide people, your ability to direct people, your ability to motivate people. And all this is tailored towards an end, towards achieving a goal. Esther Ekenwosu, I'm glad you joined me this afternoon. You're welcome. So that was our first session on this series of conversations on the leading edge. We just discussed generally about what is leadership, how to be an effective leader. And we mentioned that you have to be flexible, you have to be empathetic, you have to be decisive, and you have to know how to communicate in order to be an effective leader. And that was session 66. Do you know, can you believe we're reading session 71? I said we will celebrate our 100th session. I don't know how yet, but we'll celebrate our 100th session. So this is actually session 71. So in session 67, we talked about different leadership styles. 67 and 68, we concentrated on leadership styles because I found out, as I told her, that there are 11 leadership styles. I always thought it was like one or two, honestly. So we looked at those leadership styles in session 67 and session 68. We talked about democratic leadership style, autocratic leadership style, laissez-faire leadership style, strategic leadership style, transformational leadership style, transactional leadership style, coaching leadership style. In session 67, we had to finish it up with bureaucratic leadership style, visionary leadership, pace setting, situational leadership style. Oh, thank you. Like I said, some universities and organizations are looking for me. I'm right here. I'm not far. They should find me. They shouldn't just look. They should find me. I'm right here. Okay, others, they are welcome. I'm glad you joined us this afternoon. So that was what we discussed in session 67 and session 68. Session 69, we now talked about communication in leadership because it is essential as a leader to be able to, that vision that you have, that goal you're trying to reach, that place you're trying to take people to, you need to be able to communicate it to them. They need to understand it. And we said that to communicate effectively, you have to be an active listener. you it seems like communication is not about saying, and then we are talking about listening. But for you to really communicate effectively to anyone, you have to be an active listener. You have to be able to pay attention to what the person is saying. You have to be able to read the person's body language, to hear what they are not saying, so you will know how to craft your message to them. Okay, so we talked about active listening as an aspect or one of the key things that you need to communicate properly, especially in leadership. We talked about nonverbal communication. What does it mean that somebody does not look you in the eye when you're talking to them? What does it mean that you're talking to somebody, their hands are, crossed, or they're standing in a way? So nonverbal communication. Then we talked about clarity, being able to pass across your message as simply as possible. You don't have to use the big jargon in order to communicate with people, unless you're doing a technical session and you're talking to technical people. But once you're, day-to-day discussions, day-to-day operations, use simple words. Be clear, be simple. And then we talked about feedback and transparency. These are all very essential for a leader to be able to communicate. In session 70, which was last week, we talked about emotional intelligence in leadership. And we know that emotional intelligence is just the ability to understand and manage your emotions. That's generally all this whole, we've all heard emotional intelligence, EI, is your ability to understand and manage your own emotions. And for a leader, we agree that it is essential that not just do you understand your own emotions, not just do you manage your own, but you have to be able as a leader to influence other people's emotions, to influence other people's emotions. So that was what we discussed about emotional intelligence in leadership. We mentioned the four components: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Those were the four aspects of emotional intelligence as it relates to leaders. There are other things. People talk about motivation and all that under emotional intelligence. But as a leader, it's not as if you don't need motivation. You don't even have a choice but to be motivated because you're leading people. So the ones you really need to hone in on are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So that was what we discussed last week on growth habits. So, what is our topic today? Our topic today is decision making in leadership. Now, it might look like, is it not normal? You make decisions. You're a leader, you make decisions. But for sometimes, we get into what is called analysis paralysis as leaders. You're analyzing and trying to figure out all the moving parts of the decisions you want to make, and you wind up either not making the decision or not making it on time, or even making a completely wrong decision just because you overthought it. Let me use that expression. So, what is really decision making in leadership? What is it generally? Decision making is just the ability to assess the situation and determine how to proceed. Your ability to assess a situation and then determine how to proceed in that situation. It looks like I said, it looks simple enough. Assess the situation, determine how to proceed. It looks, very, very simple, but it's something that a lot of us generally as people struggle with. There are few people that I know, I don't know, maybe your case is different, but there are few people that I know that are able to take snap decisions, that are able to just assess a situation quickly. I think one of the issues of decision making is that assessing the situation. The making the decision, you might be able to do it quickly, but being able to truly assess a situation, being able to truly understand all the moving parts to a situation before you take the action, before you take the final decision on what to do. So decision making is the ability to assess a situation and then determine how to proceed based on your assessment, based on what you found out in assessing the decision. Now, there are various approaches to decision making. There are different ways that we can approach taking decisions, and there are, I think, was it 4 or 5? Let me just confirm. Oh, wow. There are about 8 decision making models. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the discussion of these models. Um, no, I won't really go deep into it. I would look at the actual decision making more. So, generally, like I said, there are 8 models for making decisions. And each one of them has their strengths. Each one of them have areas that they are more applicable. Just like when we talked about leadership styles, it's not a matter of this is the best. It's a matter of this is the most fitting for this situation. This is the most apt for this situation. So the first approach or the first model for decision making is rational decision making model. And this involves just being systematic, doing a step-by-step process in making a decision. It includes, maybe defining your problem, identifying criteria, all those things, weighing the criteria, generating different alternatives before taking a decision. So it's a rational decision model. You approach it systematically in order to make a decision. There are situations this is most suited for. There are situations this is most suited for. But there are situations where you don't have the time to be systematic. You don't have the time to follow the step-by-step process before you make a decision. So you also, in deciding which model you want to apply in decision making in your organization, in your home, in your whatever place of work, wherever you are making these decisions as a leader, you have to consider that. Do you have the time to follow the step by step? I'm not saying we should begin to cut corners, no, but the rational decision making model is systematic. You follow step by step. You don't skip steps. You don't jump from identifying the problem to maybe taking the decision or generating alternatives. It's assumed that you will follow through from defining the problem, identifying the criteria, weighing the criteria, generating alternatives. You follow step by step. When you have a decision that is not most times urgent, this would work. Also, you can actually still use it for urgent decisions, but you have to be someone that is able to process information quickly, someone that is able to, assess things quickly. If not, if you apply this rational decision making model to a situation that needs a quick response, the probability is that you will waste so much time and maybe you won't take this decision on time. The second model is called bounded rationality. Now, this model recognizes that individuals have abilities, they have thinking faculties, and these faculties also have limitations. It takes into consideration the fact that sometimes information is just not complete. It's just not complete. So this model suggests that people can make good enough decisions. They might not be able to make optimal decisions. So in applying this, you are able to settle for a solution that meets maybe like the minimum requirements. You don't want to go through the full, whole-blown process. You don't want to be, you can't, or you don't have the time, let me put it that way, to look for the very best of alternatives. You believe that, as human beings, we have limitations. And you apply this model and you take decisions knowing that this might not be the optimal solution, but this is good enough. This is good enough. It's not bad, it's not the worst, but it's good enough because you know that we have limitations as human beings. You take into consideration the fact that there are human limitations. That is the bounded rationality model of decision making. The third model, I'm going to try and be fast. I have quite a lot I wanted to share with us today. Anyway, we stop honest. I don't know if I'm going to carry this forward to the next week. The next model is the intuitive decision making model. And this approach basically means that you rely on your gut. You rely on your gut feelings to make decisions. You're not being systematic. You're not following any step-by-step process per se. You rely on your gut. There are decisions that you have to rely on your gut to make. You don't have the um, time or the benefit of that time. You don't have it. In this particular situation, you can't go through this step-by-step process. You can't even do the good enough rationality. You just have to trust your gut. What are your guts, or what is your gut telling you? And you just go ahead and take the decision based on that. And you usually use this, like I said, when time is limited, you really don't have too much time to make this decision. And when is an area that you have some expertise in, is an area that you're little experienced in, that you need to take this decision, you quickly, based on your gut, you take the decision and you move on. The fourth decision-making model is called creative decision-making model. Now, this model emphasizes coming up with ideas, innovative ideas. Good day, Kelechi. Welcome. I'm glad you joined me today. We're talking about decision making in leadership, and I'm going through different approaches to making decisions. So I'm talking about creative decision making model. Like I said, this emphasizes coming up with innovative, creative, novel, new solutions to the situation. So it involves a lot of brainstorming. It involves a lot of thinking outside the box and coming up with unique approaches to problems. So you can apply this when the situation requires innovation. Maybe you've tried the regular, you've tried the normal, and it didn't quite give you the best. So this situation requires you to think outside the box, apply the innovative, creative decision making model. The fifth model is autocratic decision making. Now, in this, just like in the autocratic leadership style, one person makes the decision without consulting others. As the leader, most times, you don't bother asking people for ideas. You don't bother looking for all the inputs. You just take the decision. You just take the decision. Sometimes it is effective, maybe because one, you don't have the time. Two, maybe you don't even really have the people. They don't have the required expertise. You go ahead and you just take the decision. That is autocratic decision making model. The next one is participatory decision making model. This is, it's kind of mirroring the leadership styles we talked about. And this, you include all your team members. Whoever is a member of the team is included in this decision making model. You seek their buy-in, you seek their viewpoints, you seek their opinions before you finally make the decision that needs to be made. That's participatory decision-making model. Number 7 is democratic decision-making model. We all know what democracy is, and that is majority rules. You give all the options, everybody the options, and then whatever the majority agrees is what should be done, is what is done. That's the democratic decision-making model. Then you have the consensus decision-making model. Now, this looks for a solution that everyone can agree on, not just like the democratic, where you say majority rules. No, in this situation, you try to get everyone to agree on whatever decision has to be taken. Everybody has to come to a consensus, just like the name says. Everybody has to come to a place where we all agree. This model works because it gets, of course, everybody buys in, and people are more committed because they are part of the decision that was taken. So, as I said when I started this discussion on these models, there is no one model that is the best. There is no one model that is most suited. Consider the situation, consider what needs to be done, consider the context, and then apply the decision making model that fits best for that situation. All right, so that is the decision making models. Now, I want to talk about the steps to making decisions. Um, as we look at each of these steps, now there is no hard and fast rule that says you must go through every single step. Let's bear that in mind. Sometimes you do have to skip some steps. It's allowed, it's okay, it's acceptable, but don't skip the key steps, like identifying the decision. Don't skip it. Don't skip it. You need to be able to identify what is the problem. What are you going to, what are you making a decision about? Now, remember that this is tailored to leaders. It's tailored to leaders, which means there are people you're leading there. There's either an organization or something. There's a group of people that you're making this decision for or with. So it is essential to bear this in mind as we look at these steps to making decision, to the whole decision making process. So step one is to identify, what is it? What is that thing you're trying to solve? What is the problem? What is the issue? Identify it. Identify the decision that you need to make. Focus on what specific problem are you trying to solve. If you skip this first step, I really don't know what you're doing with the rest. Honestly, I really don't know what you're doing with the rest. Because if you don't know the problem you're trying to solve, what is the whole decision-making process about? So it is important that you identify the problem you're trying to solve. It is key. It is key. Identify the problem. Don't just jump into having discussions with people. What some of us do is that because we have not really identified the problem, we come and have long discussions that yield nothing. Yield nothing. So identify the specific problem you're trying to solve. Identify it. Take the time and figure it out. As much as possible, don't have a general idea. Be specific about the problem you're trying to solve. What you need to take this decision on, be specific. Don't generalize it. When you generalize the problem or the challenge or the whatever you're trying to solve, when you generalize it, most times the decision you take in the end is not optimal. It's not optimal. It doesn't quite achieve the purpose. So it's very important and essential that you have an identification of the specific problem we're trying to get a solution for. We're trying to solve. So how do we even do that? There are some models, there are some ways, let me use that you can identify a problem. And one is what is called the 5 why analysis. Now, this 5 why analysis entails you're asking 5 levels of whys, 5 levels of whys. And in asking those 5 levels of whys, you get to the root of the problem you're trying to solve. So this helps you not to have a general idea of the problem or whatever decision you're trying to take. You get down to the real core. You go below the surface of the symptoms and you get to the real thing. You understand the real root cause of the problem by doing these 5 whys. Like I said, it's just asking 5 questions, and the questions are why. For example, there was an example I was looking at yesterday. As I was reading up, I was thinking, okay, I said, okay, my car does not want to start. For example, this is the issue. I came out in the morning and the car is not starting. So what would I do? Using the 5 why analysis, I will say, why is the car not starting? In asking that question, I will get an answer, of course. Let's assume that the answer is that, oh, the battery is dead, because I asked, why is the car not starting? I would check to see, if I can figure out what is causing this car not to start. The battery is dead, or it appears the battery is dead. I now ask myself the second why. Why is this battery dead? What happened? What led to this battery being dead? Maybe I'll now discover, oh, the alternator of the car has a problem. It does now. Remember that I'm using this car example. You can use anything. It's just that this was what popped into my head yesterday when I was thinking about it. You can use anything to do these 5 whys. Because I'm using a car example, because somehow I have an idea that if your car won't start, probably it's the battery. If the battery is having a problem, maybe the alternator is not charging the battery. You see, because I have some knowledge, I'm able to come up with the answers to the whys. Okay, so it's essential that in applying this 5 why, you have an idea of the subject matter, let me use that word, that you're trying to solve, that you're trying to find a solution to. If I don't know anything about cars and I ask myself these 5 whys, I'm not going to come up with anything reasonable. I'm not going to. If I don't know that alternators have anything to do with the battery, would I be able to make headway here? No. So that's why I said it's important to be, you have to be, this helps you get to the very root, but you have to be a bit knowledgeable about what you're looking for, the solution to. So the car won't start. Why? The battery is dead. Oh, the battery is dead. Why? The alternator is not working because the alternator is not charging the battery. That is why. So why is the alternator not working? Then I have to, use my brain again, or maybe do a check of the car. Oh, the alternator belt is not working. It's broken or something. It's caught. The alternator belt caught. Okay. Why did the alternator belt cut? Because see, that the alternator belt cut is not the main issue. This is not the root cause. Something made that belt to cut. And this is the beauty of these 5 whys of analyzing a problem, of identifying, the decision you need to make. You just keep going a step deeper until you get to the root cause. So why did the alternator belt cut? What could have happened? Maybe it's old. Maybe I've not been servicing it. It could be any of those things. Maybe, I was supposed to have serviced the alternator belt since last 2 weeks or something, and I didn't. That is why it is broken. Maybe the alternator belt was even bad. Who knows? But, in asking these whys, it forces me to think deeper. It forces me to come up with, to even search to figure out what really happened. So let's assume that in my search, I found out that, okay, I should have serviced the alternator belt and I didn't. This is why it was broken. So why didn't I do it? Why didn't I service it? You see how this works. I didn't service, I didn't do it. Maybe, who knows? I've not been keeping to the schedule my mechanic gave me to service my vehicle. Because probably if I was keeping to that, I would have discovered this alternator belt issue earlier. Okay, so now the car was not serviced as it should according to the schedule of how the manufacturer of the car said. Now I've gotten to the root cause. I am not maintaining this car well. If I was maintaining my car properly, then I would have noticed the alternator issue. I would have seen that the belt is weak. I would have noticed that, it's not functioning optimally and my battery would not have died. If my battery did not die, of course my car would have started. So we see how these 5 whys work. So it's in any decision you want to take to identify the root cause, the main issue, ask the 5 whys. And there is no, when you're asking the 5 whys, the next why is as a result of whatever answer you gave to the last why you asked. Okay, so that is the 5 whys method of trying to identify a problem. The next one is to do what they call problem framing. Yes, problem framing. And this is to, when you do a problem framing, you use it to dig and find out the ins and outs, every aspect of the problem that you're trying to fix. Problem framing. So you just, how do I define this so that it makes, okay. The aim of problem framing is to define the problem first, not to solve it yet. To define what is this problem. You're not trying to solve it yet. You're not trying to provide a solution. You just want to get to the root of what the problem is. So, you can go through analyzing, understanding, and trying to define what the problem is. That is the root. That is the purpose of problem framing. So it's just framing the problem, trying to get all the ins and outs, trying to get all the facets, all the different aspects of this problem that you're trying to solve. Remember that if you're not able to get root cause analysis, if you're not able to get to identify the specific problem that you're trying to solve, you generally, in the end, when you finally get a solution, it probably will not be optimal. So do not skip this first step. Do not skip it. And remember that in framing your problem, you have to be specific. You have to get to the real deal. It's not, when you say root cause analysis, something has happened. Okay, well, in other way, something has happened. I'm trying to get to the root. What caused it? So that is, yeah, that I think that works also. So if you skip this first step, the possibility that what you will get at the end is optimal is very, very reduced. So identify your problem and be specific. Get to the real problem. For example, the example I gave about the car. Don't stop at the part of the alternator is not working. Don't stop there, because you have not gotten to the real cause. You have not gotten to the real reason why the alternator of the car was not working. The real problem is that you were not maintaining your car. You are not keeping to the maintenance schedule of that car. You were not servicing the car as and when needed. Because if you were doing that, you would have seen that the alternator is beginning to have the problem. I hope this makes sense. So in doing this identification of the problem, we have to also be careful that we don't have decision fatigue, that we don't just, make, will I say, the wrong decisions simply because we had too many things or too many aspects of that decision. Okay, so you are trying to define what your problem is so that so they can tailor the solution. Exactly. You need to be able to define what the real problem is. Sometimes, people that know me, that I've dealt with, when you come to me, especially my mentees, you come to me with an issue, this happened. You can never see me offer you a solution right away. You cannot, I can't do that. I will ask you, so why did this happen? Because I need you to reason it out. I need you to get to the root cause. If you don't get to the root, if you don't get to the very problem, what is the below surface level, below the symptoms you're seeing, what caused this? If you don't get there, you cannot really get a solution that will work. Many of us, we do that surface checking of symptoms, and based on that, we begin to prefer solutions. Decisions made from this point, they are never really the optimal. They're never really the best. So always try to get to the root. Why did this thing happen? What led to it? This is part of problem framing now. The 5 why analysis just keeps asking, why did this happen? Why did this happen? But the problem frame is, what led to it? Could it have been avoided? So that you get to the real reason. You get to the real reason or the real issue. Then you can begin to prefer solutions. Then you can begin to look for alternatives. It makes the other steps faster, easier when you get this step 1 right. Okay, so that is step 1 of making a decision. Identify what the problem is and be specific in identifying what the problem is. Number 2, gather information. Now that you've identified that the problem, okay, let's go back to our car example. You identified that the problem that you are not maintaining your car at the recommended time. You're not doing the regular maintenance as requested or as suggested by the manufacturer of the vehicle. Now, gather your information about it. Gather your information about it. What are the recommended times to service your car? Who can do it for you? Gather all the information you can on this problem that you have identified. So that when you finally decide that, okay, I'll be servicing my car, every 2 months as requested by the manufacturer, I will take it to so and so. You've already identified everything because you gathered all the information. The solution you will prefer is holistic. It's not a solution that is haphazard. It will be holistic. So gather all the information you can. Build your case, so to speak. Build your case. Gather all the relevant, I want to put that caveat, relevant information. You will not go and be gathering information on something else when your problem is your car servicing. Remember. So gather relevant information, whatever it may be. What is relevant depends on what problem you're trying to solve, what you're trying to get a solution to. So gather all the relevant information that you need so that you don't make an impulsive decision. Gather all the relevant information. For in a company, a way to gather relevant information for like a company, an organization, a group, a team, you do what is called mind mapping. And a mind mapping session is like a brainstorming session where, but unlike a regular brainstorming session, we just say out the ideas. In a mind mapping session, you visualize and you organize your thoughts. You visualize and you organize your thoughts even before you present them. So it's not just, throwing, in a normal brainstorming session, just throw out your ideas, whether they are fully formed or not. That is a regular brainstorming session. This is our problem. What do you think? And people are just offering their ideas of what they think. That is the regular brainstorming session. But in a mind mapping session, you don't just throw out ideas. No, you visualize the ideas. Every member, every person that's part of this team, visualize that thing that you're trying to say. Visualize it. See it. Organize it before you present it to the team to deliberate on. So that is what is called a mind mapping session. So it goes beyond just the regular brainstorming. Then another thing is you can do like what they call, I think it's project poster. That is a visual representation of all that, for our regular day-to-day, we call it a vision board, something like that, but for the problem that you're trying to solve currently. define those goals, get all the information, it helps when people are able to see things. So that is why a project poster, it must not be a physical poster per se, but it could just be like a board where, even if it's digital, whatever, where all the ideas are put up so people can see it and process it. Okay. Um, number three, right? Number three. Yes, number three. Now that you have identified the problem, you have gathered the information, begin to identify the alternatives. There is usually no one way to solve the problem. As in, ultimately, there will be one way, but you have to look at all the other alternatives. So identify all the other alternatives. What this does for you is that by the time you finally take the decision, you would have considered all the possibilities. You would have looked at, would this have worked better? Would this other one have worked better? And compare them side by side. So identify alternatives. Don't ever just make a decision based on one, will I say, one way, or one idea, or one solution. Look for other alternatives. They exist. Look for them. Then, when you consider all of them together, you can always find the best. So identify the alternatives. Identify the alternatives. Don't make decisions maybe on A and B only. Try to get other alternatives. There are different I call them processes that people use to identify alternatives. One is what they call six thinking hat technique. That is where you look at the whole issue, the problem you're trying to solve by considering the different perspectives to it. It will help you identify all the alternatives. And they say you do like you have six different hats. A white hat that focuses on all the facts, the data, the information. Then you have a red hat that emphasizes on the emotions, the feelings, the intuition. A black hat that considers potential risks, downsides, problems. A yellow hat that looks at potential benefits, advantages, positive aspects. A green hat that encourages creativity, new ideas, possibilities, and a blue hat that manages the thinking process, focus on organization and control. Now, this whole six thinking hat technique is new to me also. I discovered this in my process of researching to prepare for this session. So, but I think what it does is it helps both you, excuse me, and your team to think more freely, because each person is supposed to put on these six thinking hats. You're supposed to look at that problem that we're talking about, looking at all the facts, all the data, the information. You're also supposed to consider the emotions, the feelings, the intuitions that go with it, consider the risk, everything. The possibility of coming up with various alternatives that all make sense somehow, that are not just drop of the hat ideas, is high, because you're thinking through all the perspectives. You're thinking through all the perspectives. So that is what they call six thinking hat technique for identifying alternatives. It helps you come up with more alternatives to your problem than if you just, sit down and say, okay, what else can I do? This gives you the different perspectives through which you can look at the problem, and that will help you come up with different alternatives. Okay, that is identifying all alternatives. Number four, I'm looking at time. Like I said, I wanted to be very fast today, but it doesn't look like I'm fast as I want. But let's see, number four. After that, after you have identified the problem, when you have after you have identified the problem, you have gathered all the information that you need, and you have found different alternatives to solving the problem that you're trying to solve, that you're trying to take a decision on. the next thing that you should do, remember that I said that you must not go through all these stages, but if you can, perfect. Sometimes you can skip some, but okay, now that you have got to know the alternatives, the next thing is to consider all this evidence. You have all this list of alternatives, give them some thought. You know that you can combine some steps. Let me say that you can combine. It does not mean that each of these steps I mentioned must be done separately, but they're just thought processes. They're just thought processes that help you get to the decision. So consider the evidence. You've gathered all the information, you've looked at the alternatives, and you have identified some alternatives. Look at these things now. Consider the evidence you have with all your alternatives you have come up with. Look at them closely and then begin to figure out which ones make more sense for you, which ones you need to pursue, which ones you need to pursue. So that is what considering the evidence is all about. You have gathered a lot of information. You have come up with some alternatives. Now give them more thought and pick out the ones that make sense for you in that situation. You can do a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that affect or that relate to that decision you're trying to take. Once you have finished this step, the next step is to choose among these alternatives that you have come up with. You see, this looks like a long process. Maybe because I'm saying them one by one. This is something that you can do like step 2, 3, 4, 5 first, actually. You can do them at once. Step 2, 3, 4, 5 can be done at the same time. Gather the information, identify the alternatives, and assess these alternatives, and then step 5, choose. Choose from the alternatives that you have come up with. This can be done at a sitting. It does not really take that long. What basically most times takes long is one, the identifying the problem, and then 2, gathering the information. These are the ones that take up more time. But once you have identified the problem, you have gathered information about it, considering the alternatives, and maybe and then choosing doesn't really take that much time. You can combine these steps and do them at once or at a sitting. So among these alternatives that you have come up with, make a choice. Make a choice. Because you have enough information and you have given it enough thought, making the decision of the alternative to choose becomes easier. You have given it enough thought. You have done all the hard work. Basically, I use the word hard work, in parentheses. Make the choice from these alternatives that you have. Which one do I now choose? Which one do I now carry on? Which decision am I making now? Amongst the alternatives, amongst the options that I have, which one do I go forward with? If you did your data gathering stage well, and they identified these alternatives properly, this side becomes easier. And you did the analysis of the alternatives, it becomes easier to make a choice because you have the pros and the cons of each of the alternatives. You have looked at the positives and the negatives of each of these alternatives. You've looked at this, like you did the SWOT analysis. You looked at the strengths, the weaknesses. You looked at the opportunities and threats attached to the alternatives. To choose among them, I think it becomes a very, very much easier. Let me also very, very much easier because sometimes too, with all the research you've done, it looks like it becomes more difficult to choose an alternative that is best suited for you. But I believe if you did the other steps well, this becomes a little bit easier. Okay, so choose among those alternatives that you have identified. Now, this is where I think I mentioned at the beginning, analysis paralysis can happen. You have so many options. You have done a lot of work. You have gathered a lot of information. You have picked up, alternatives, you identify them, you've looked at them. Avoid at this point having analysis paralysis. This is where you overthink everything. Avoid it. It's not, when I say avoid it, like it's just avoid it like that. No, I know it can be difficult to avoid, but try to not be overwhelmed by the quantity of information you now have at hand. Try not to allow it to overwhelm you. This is why it's best to do this decision making processes in a group and not by yourself. This is why, as leaders, we should incorporate, we should bring in our team members in the decision making process, because at this time they can offer their own solutions, they can offer their own opinions, and it will help you in taking the final decision, and it will also help prevent analysis paralysis. But at the same time, it could also worsen analysis paralysis. So this is the thing. You have to ensure that you're not giving, in quotes, too much room for too much analysis. That is where you come in as the leader, to know where to draw the line and say, okay, this is enough. Let's take a decision. I've been in meetings where people kept offering it, more information, more alternatives, more opinions. And in my head, I'm like, please end this. End it now. I wasn't the one, in charge, so I couldn't stop all the everybody wants to have their say. I couldn't stop it, but in my head I was thinking, please stop this, so that a decision can be taken. When you do too much analysis of a situation, you do get into analysis paralysis, and you can't take a decision because there's just too much. So as the leader, you need to, that is why you are there, to know when to put an end to the analysis and let's move forward and take a decision. All right, so avoid analysis paralysis. Now that you've done all this, you've identified the problem, you have gathered data, you have done all the alternatives, you've analyzed all the alternatives, you have, decided or picked the alternatives you want to go ahead with. Just go ahead and take action. Do it. Make that decision. Pick your option that you're going with and just go ahead. You have done all the work. Just go ahead and take the decision. Don't keep delaying it by, maybe bringing in more. There's no, just go ahead and take the action. Just do it. Just do it. In taking this action, I'm sure in your process of gathering information and in analyzing the alternatives and all that, would have considered the stakeholders, would have considered the people that this decision will affect, would have considered how your decision will affect whoever, everybody. Okay, sorry. All right, sorry, a call was coming in. You would have considered all this in um, in the process. So now that it's time to take action, just go ahead and take action. Go ahead and choose the best alternatives. Go ahead and do what is necessary. Avoid self-doubt when it's time to now take an action. Sometimes it happens to us that we've done all that we should do. We've identified the problem. We've done all the analysis. We've gotten all the alternatives. We've assessed all the alternatives. We've picked amongst all the alternatives that we have. The tendency when it's now time to just take the action is for you to begin to question, is this really the right thing? Did I really, did I consider everything? You did, go ahead. Unless you truly did not go through this process. If you truly went through this process that I've mentioned, just go ahead and take the decision. Just go ahead and take action. There is no 100% guarantee. It doesn't exist. So just take the action. If issues arise, in quote now, that is where step 7 comes. You review. You review. And in the process of review, you can correct anything that may have gone wrong. You can do adjustments where necessary. See, because we think that when we take a decision, it must be perfect as at the time we take it and as at the time we implement it. This is one of the things that get us into problem. Step 7 is there. Review. Review after you have taken the decision. There is truly no decision that is 100%. And well, I've not experienced it. It only improves with time. As you review, as you make adjustments, the decision becomes better. The solution you preferred becomes more effective, becomes more relevant, if that is even, the thing. But you have to take the decision first. And then give yourself the opportunity to review it periodically. Don't just take it and leave it. I've taken this decision. This is the solution I preferred. That's it. No. Give room for review. Give room for review. Check. Did it achieve the purpose it was meant to achieve? Yes or no? If it didn't, why didn't it? This is another time to do a root cause analysis. Why didn't it? And in the process of the review, you will come up with ways to improve on that decision, to improve on its effectiveness, to improve on its outcomes. And one of the ways to do this review is to look at what they call the 4 L's. And the 4 L's is one, what did you or your team love about this project, this decision, this activity? What did you love about it? What was successful about it? What worked well? The second L is what is loaded. What did you not like? What didn't you like? What did everybody dislike about the decision, about the solution, about the activity? Find, by the time you do this assessment, there will be some things that, recur. Pick those ones up. What didn't people like? What did people like? Some things will recur. Pick up the ones that reoccur. They are the ones that you need to either improve on or keep. If it's something that, as you interview maybe your whole team and the stakeholders, and there's 2 or 3 things that they loved, that is something to keep. And if there are 2 or 3 things that they didn't like, they loathed, you need to work on it. The next L is learned. What did you learn in this process? See, if every decision that we make truly, there has to be a learning process to it. If there's no learning aspect, to it, if there's no learning aspect to your decisions, I wonder what those decisions really did for you. So what did you learn? What did you learn in that whole process, and from beginning to end, and in the carrying out of the decision? What did you learn? What was the learning points? Pick them. Pick them. That is how the team will grow. That is how you will grow as a leader. That is how your teammates will grow. And that is how the organization, the team as a whole will grow. When you pick the learning points from whatever decisions people have made, whatever projects you have embarked on, whatever things you have done. And then the 4th L is longed for. What did the team, or even you, or each individual wish you could have done better? What is in your wish list for this activity, for this decision, for this project? Could it be resources? Whatever it is, look at them. By the time you consider these 4 L's of the decision that you took, or the project you undertook, or the actions that you took, you will be able to come up with how to improve on that decision. For sure, you come up with how to improve. Then one of the things that also helps at this time of when you're reviewing your decisions, one of the things that I have found that helps a lot is to celebrate your wins. I know I've talked about this severally, but celebrate your wins, no matter how small, no matter how big. Any win that is attached to that decision that you took, celebrate it. Celebrate it. When you do that, it gives you morale and improves motivation for your team also. So celebrate your wins, and it makes future decisions look less daunting, less intimidating. So celebrate the little wins. And with that, I think, um, okay, let me look at my laptop. I think I've covered. I was able, yes, I was able to cover basically all that I wanted to cover in this decision making um, discussion on leadership, that's decision making in leadership. So remember, oh, yes, one thing when you're um, doing this review and you're celebrating your wins and all that, try not to look back on um, things, with the information you have now. I mean, you've taken the decision, you've carried it out. In the process of review, try not to look back and then begin to beat yourself up for things you feel you should have done better. That is a great possibility. It happens to us all, I believe. It happens to me. Now that I have hindsight, I've finished the thing, and now look back and I'm beginning to beat myself. I should have known better. I couldn't really have known better because the information I have now, the process I've passed through now, I didn't have it at the beginning. So avoid, I think they call it hindsight bias. I hope I'm right. I think that's what they call it. Avoid it. Don't beat yourself up for things you feel you should have done better when you didn't have the same level of information you have now. You couldn't even have really done better because you didn't have the information. So, yeah, that brings us to the end of our discourse on decision making. I hope that I've been able to pass across some information. Agatha Obon, I'm glad you joined me this afternoon. Welcome, welcome. I hope I've been able to pass across some information that will help us in making decisions, especially as leaders in organizations, in teams. These processes, these things I've mentioned, will help us to make good, effective decisions, to prefer right solutions, solutions that will solve the problems truly that they are meant to solve. Remember that the processes I mentioned, I think is this 7 steps? Let me just quickly check. Is this 7 steps? I mentioned 7 steps, but remember that you don't have to do these 7 steps at 7 different times. It's possible to combine some and do them together. Like I think I mentioned step 3, 4, 5. You can do them at the same time. Once you're able to, what this going through this process does for you is that by the next time you have a major decision to take, you're more prepared for it and you make it easier. It becomes easier each time you do it, actually, truly. It becomes easier each time you have a major decision to take because you've gone through the steps and you've gotten the learnings from it. You apply it to the next decision that you have to take. And with that, we have come to the end of session 71. Oh my God. 71 of Growth Habits with Ngozi. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Thank you for joining live. Thank you for those that are going to watch the replay. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate that you always show up. I appreciate that you take the time to watch the replays. Remember to follow us on all our social media handles. We are going somewhere with this growth habits, and I can't get there without you. I really can't. I cannot go anywhere without each and every one of you that show up, each and every one of you that shares this link to others to watch, each and every one of you that introduce your friends, that bring in your friends to follow us. on all our social media handles. If you were not here, there is nothing that I could do. So I thank each and every one of you, and I appreciate you for always being there. Please don't forget again, share this to all your friends, put it on your status, put it on your page for people to come back and watch and learn alongside you. Thank you for those that have been giving me stars. I appreciate it. Please continue giving continue giving me the stars. They help. And do get your friends to follow me here on Facebook, on Instagram, everywhere. The more we get this out for people to enjoy, the more we spread this. Um, I'm trying to say this love, but that's not really. So let's get as many people as possible to enjoy what you're enjoying, because if you're really gaining from this, you're getting any benefit, tell others about it. I was in a prayer meeting yesterday, and someone mentioned that I've never seen her, honestly, I've never seen her on the live session, but she mentioned that she follows all of the growth habits programs and that she's learning from it. That is my joy. So please share it to as many people as you can. When I put up like the posts showing that the sessions will hold today, share it on your status, share it with your friends, put it on your own Facebook, on your Instagram, so that others will be part of this. Thank you all once again for joining me. As I mentioned, we are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Growth Habits with Ngozi. Let's grow this brand. And nobody has mentioned my new shirts. Does it mean we did not notice that the shirts have changed? Ah, my people, please. So, yes, I've been saying it, but nobody has really shown too much interest. We have Growth Habits shirts. You can see it, Growth Habits shirts. One has my name because this is my own Growth Habits. If you noticed, for the past, I think this is our second session. Is it our third? This is our third session that I've used this new set of shirts. So please, if you're interested, do let me know. Okay, you noticed, but you did not say. Okay. So please do let me know. If you're interested in them, let me know. I can connect you to the person that makes them for me. He actually joined here briefly before he disappeared. His name is Okeodunze, and he can hook you up and make one for you. All right, so thank you once again. I appreciate it. I've gone way over time today, but it is what it is, as they say. So thank you for joining me. I hope to see you next week. Oh, what is the topic for next week? I'm actually not sure. Sometimes these things, I think either conflict resolution or team building. I'm not sure. I will confirm. Let me look at my program for this whole session and see which one to take up next. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me today. And remember to make today an everyday count. Be valuable and grow. Thank you once again and have an awesome day. Bye.